Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure.
First of all, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do, a bit about you.
My name is Oskar Gilchrist-Grodnicki and I run a luxury wedding planning business in Scotland, most specifically in Edinburgh. Our business is called Oskar Luxury Wedding Planning and we have been running weddings now since 2009. This is when I started in the wedding industry, initially working in the corporate hospitality, physically delivering weddings day to day.
Yeah.
And it was actually, I can blame it on my manager at the time. He said, "You've got really good attention to details, so I'd want you to do and look after weddings for us." So being honest, it was not like a kid's dream of doing that. I suppose when I was younger, I wanted to be a fireman back then, but thankfully didn't proceed with that. But yeah, this was still when I was at university, so first job working in hotels, delivering weddings there. I did a course in event management at university, which obviously helped me kind of establish myself there as well. And then kind of progressed in the career throughout the corporate hospitality until in 2019 I decided to officially launch what was back then the Wedding Guru Oskar business, Wedding Planning Scotland. We're now growing a team. We've had numerous awards for our work. We've covered weddings from Inverness in the north, in Skye, Oban on the west coast, down to the west coast, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and all the beautiful and iconic venues. We're now a team of 3, and we have rebranded November last year to Oskar Luxury Wedding Planning, just so it's very clear with what we do in the wedding industry as well.
You've grown quite quickly then, because anyone I've spoken to, if I've said like wedding planner in Scotland, they're like, "Oh, Oskar." Like as soon as you say wedding planner in Scotland, they're just like, "Okay, it's going to be Oskar."
Thank you.
It's quite impressive that it's only been 7 years.
7 years. 7 years on our own. But I suppose before that, because I've worked in the corporate hospitality, and I kind of progressed in jobs to more kind of regional roles, and my first award for wedding planning, still back in the corporate setting, was 2016, so 10 years ago now. It all kind of fell into place a little bit.
Lovely. And you just do weddings in Scotland?
Yes. We have been asked whether we'd want to maybe do a destination wedding and stuff. I am a great believer in focusing on what you do well and doing this very well as well. And I think a big reason for our success in Scotland is the fact that we work with incredible portfolio, fantastic suppliers, network of industry experts that we heavily rely on to deliver these exceptional weddings every time. So for me to take that safety net and go to Italy or Greece, I would be very careful with how we approach that.
You don't watch the space from Scotland with you.
Exactly. Watch the space. It may happen, but for the moment we focus on what we do well.
So why Scotland? Tell me, why should someone come to Scotland? What is it about Scotland that makes it so special, particularly for weddings?
Of course. Well, I'm biased because I fell in love with this place back in 2008 when I first came to Scotland from Poland, my home country, and did I know I was going to settle here? I don't know, honestly, but I fell in love with Edinburgh and everything that it's got to offer, the history, the heritage, the landscapes. I just fell in love with the fact that you're just by the coast and then you've got the mountains and the hills. It just has got this cinematic, really beautiful landscape that lends itself out to couples who are planning weddings in Scotland as well. And I think what's also quite special is the fact that beyond the beauty, the natural beauty, and also the historic heritage beauty of the venues that we've got here, the castles, the beautiful libraries, so many different and variety of venues, there's this very unique warmth and hospitality that allows guests to feel welcome in Scotland. It's got this high energy, but also settles and grounds you in it as well. So I absolutely love Scotland for that.
Special. And you talked there about kind of, you've got the coast, the mountains, the lochs. talk to me about the different regions, because Scotland's obviously very small, but when you drive around, so there's a reason that people do driving holidays around Scotland, because it's a short drive to get to somewhere that looks completely different. Do weddings work differently in the different regions?
They do and they don't. I think the beauty of Scotland is that we are actually reasonably accessible, with direct connections to Edinburgh, Glasgow, with the international airports. We've got couples travelling from the US, from Australia, from the Middle East, throughout the world. And majority of the beautiful venues that we see and focus on, they're within an hour to 2 hours drive. So that's never been an issue for us. But there's a big difference between your central belt, Edinburgh and Glasgow. We're very lucky in Scotland because every town you've got a castle, every town you've got a historic heritage venue. But that's where majority of our venues are.
Okay.
And then you go to your more kind of bordering counties, your Scottish borders, your Lothians, your West Coast. There's beautiful country estates with a lot of rural setup and landscape to them.
Would you say that's where the hidden gems are? Because I think when people think of Scotland, they think of Edinburgh, Glasgow, and the Highlands.
Yes.
And they maybe don't think there's a long way between the border and the rest of Scotland.
Well, it's interesting because I think when you're looking at this below Central Belt and slightly above the Central Belt, but before you head to the Highlands, there's this very rich farming history, and therefore you've got these beautiful big country estates and barns and these rustic setups, country roads, beautiful, very nicely lowland landscaped backgrounds. So yes, there's that little subtle difference with how you look at these kind of lowland areas to your Highlands, which are very rugged, very rich and natural in their beauty, to Central Belt where you've got these beautiful castles and they're all very nicely manicured and stuff, to more country estates in the kind of more lowland counties.
And just became very Scottish, the whiskey making,
right,
is that more, are you saying the farming region's kind of that lower belt? Would you say that's where the hub, if you've got a whiskey fanatic, or can you again just go anywhere in Scotland?
I think it depends how much you're into your whiskey, because you do have regions of Scotland. So you've got the Islands, you've got the Lowlands, Highlands. I'm not a whiskey expert, so please don't quote me on this one. But having looked at the map of whiskey in Scotland, in every corner of the country you will find a different peat, different finish to it. Peatiness is probably what I should have said. Different finish to it, different flavouring, different method of creating whiskey as well. So I think everywhere you go, you will find a whiskey, but it might be a slightly different taste and feel to it as well.
Yeah, okay. And then weather-wise, because, the UK is not known for the best weather, and Scotland is obviously north. So what do people need to consider when they're thinking about a wedding in Scotland when it comes to weather? Is it time of year? Is it just plan for indoors and pray for outdoors?
Yeah, well, Scotland is beautifully unpredictable, let's be honest about it. Yes, we could say that, from May to September, these are most stable months of the year.
Yeah.
But actually, the reality is we've had very wet days in July, we've had, beautiful days in the winter. I think what Scotland rewards is actually planning for the unpredictability of the seasons, and always planning with a contingency, so that your plan A is just as good as your plan B, and therefore you don't need to worry about this on the wedding day as well. So a lot of the venues and a lot of couples that we work with, we will pick venues that give us the really comparable option for both indoor and outdoor ceremonies, drinks, and everything else that comes into the equation.
And then you need a type B bride who's happy to go with the flow and accept a last minute change.
In all fairness, I think it's just the transparency and honesty of the conversation from the beginning. It is Scotland. It is likely to rain, whether it's Monday or Wednesday, whether it's January or June, July. we just need to be prepared for it, and yeah, just a little bit of contingency planning for both options, so that you're not compromising as much.
Yeah.
You still love your option B as well.
Yeah, that's quite exciting as
It
a
is.
planner, I'm sure,
It
to have
is,
that.
it is.
So you're double planning for every event.
A little bit, yes.
And then, do you have a favourite time of year for planning?
Oh gosh. Right. I don't want to slate certain parts of the year, but I do tend to say to couples, statistically speaking, August is actually the wettest month of the year in Scotland, so I tend to avoid that. And obviously with the festivals in Edinburgh, it's quite a busy season as it is, so it's probably not the most popular choice for weddings. Elsewhere in the UK, August is probably the busiest month.
Yeah.
Up here, maybe not so much. And I'm talking about Edinburgh here more specifically, because in the Highlands might be slightly different. Where you get probably, and please again don't quote me on this one, the nicest weather, statistically speaking, will be your May, your June, your September, and maybe even a little bit of the start of October.
Yeah.
If you are willing to be a bit flexible with your date and you don't mind the colder months, actually January, I got married in January. It was very dry, crisp and cold, but it was nice. It was dry, so we didn't mind it at all. And I actually, for myself, and from speaking from personal experience, we did not want to set ourselves up for a failure of expectation. Beautiful day in July, getting the rain. We were like, well, get married in January. If it is dry, it's a bonus. If it's not, we're planning for a majority of our events indoors.
Yeah. And actually, a lot of the venues in Scotland suit an indoor. I mean, if you're at a castle, you might as well make the most of the castles.
100%. And I think this is the beauty. Every turn you've got something to consider, to love, to maybe even include in the whole experience as well. We do the drinks here if it rains, and the whiskey tasting there, and the stag's head is really nice for the family group photos. It's just about really pulling out those really unique pieces that actually gives us that curated experience for you and your guests.
And kind of on that, how much decor do you tend to find couples want for a wedding in Scotland, where if they're at a traditional venue where, if it's a castle and the castle is going to have quite a lot of its own feel to it. Yeah. How much do you add? How much do you try and just embrace what's already there?
I think the beauty of majority of the venues we've got here is that they do come with a lot of character. They're not your traditional blank canvas spaces. Yeah. Therefore, the way we like to lean into those spaces is actually embracing what's already there and enhancing what's already there as well. So yes, in some venues you could argue you don't really need to decorate an awful lot, but couples have got their own personalities, their own spins, their own preferences. So it's about finding that perfect balance of matching and working with the space, but also not overpowering what you've already got within that room, that space as well.
Yeah, okay. And then couples looking at Scotland, what do you think is the ideal couple for Scotland?
Well, majority of the couples that we work with travel internationally to Scotland. We've got clients from the US, Canada, from Mexico, from Brazil, from Australia, from the Middle East, from France, Italy, Germany, Norway, We've worked with beautiful range of clients.
And do they normally have a connection with Scotland, or is it just that Scotland's gorgeous and they want to come to Scotland?
I would say majority will, to an extent. If I was to put a number on this, probably 70% of our couples have got some connection to Scotland, whether they went to St Andrews University and met at university, or they've got grandparents from here, or there is, they got engaged here, they came to Skye, got engaged on Skye, and they want to come back and bring their family and friends here. There is an element of already having certain level of expectations. They've been here or they have heard about this. There is probably about 30% of our clients that come to us. They've never been to Scotland. Wow. They have seen a few images, fallen in love with the beauty and the uniqueness of the
Yeah.
space and the richness of character and heritage here that they said this is the place that a lot of couples come to us and say we always wanted to do a destination wedding. We didn't know where that was going to be, but when we started looking, Scotland spoke to us.
Wow.
And this is where we've arrived at.
That's really cool. And then it's up to you to decide where in Scotland.
Absolutely. We have, honest conversations about what is it that ticks the scale for them across. Is it, are we looking for this multi-day castle experience, or are we looking at more country estate? Are we looking for more outdoors, indoors? What's the character that you're looking for? Are we looking for more traditional? Are we looking for more modern? Yeah, it's all these conversations, and then the juices start flowing. You can see things ticking on, and couples, what's interesting, will quicker tell you what they have seen and maybe do not like before they tell you what they like. But that way we identify what's really up for them in that process.
And then multi-day weddings here, because obviously destination weddings, if they're traveling that far, they're going to have a multi-day wedding.
Absolutely.
It's not your traditional, I think when you traditionally think of a multi-day wedding, you think of a sunny brunch and then a beach party the day after or something like that. What does a multi-day wedding look like in Scotland, and how are the venues set up for them?
I think generally speaking, what couples need to be very careful with, whether that's Scotland or internationally, it's about the intensity that we build with events. It's very easy to, cram a big program of events and actually struggling for your guests to find a balance. They get exhausted, that there's this overwhelm for them as well. So it's very important about breaking them in. We peak, we create the softness at the end. So you've got the very informal arrival, you've got the party celebration for the wedding day itself, and you've got this very fond and gentle farewell at the end. And I think it depends between locations, because if we're talking of a Highland castle on a beautiful country estate in the borders, when you're at a location so distant, we try to organise these events in and around the estate. So we take that into account. If a client comes to us and says, we do want a 2-3 day event, and we are looking at those locations, does this venue fit the purpose, and can we actually manage this expectation? So there's an element of surprise, so there's an element of a difference for them. But when you're thinking about the Central Belt, where we're lucky, you could do a fun party in a nightclub in Edinburgh city centre the night before and bring your guests into the heart of the party mode, and then you can have this beautiful castle experience the day of the wedding, and maybe a barbecue on the beach. We've got so many options here. Yeah.
And in terms of, you're going to do one of those castle weddings in the middle of nowhere, what is it normally that people then want to do, kind of the Scottish experiences? Or is it just for a wedding, they just want to be with their friends and family and it's just doing a dinner the night before?
I think when you take yourself out of the Central Belt, Central Belt of Scotland, and you do want to embrace the rugged Scottish countryside and the hills and everything else like that, you need to make sure that your guests are up for a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
And you may give your guests options. Some might want to just chill and enjoy the beautiful views, and some might want to climb that hill with you as well. But I think it's when you do take your guests away, it's about creating this very multi-layered experience for them as well. So a lot of couples will consider things like Highland games.
Yeah.
They will do this whiskey tasting. They might organise, actually, when we've got couples in Edinburgh and they still want to give their guests this rounded Scotland experience, they might organise an excursion up to the Highlands on the last day after the wedding. So, yes, you can layer this in very gently, but definitely when couples take you further away, they want you to be really exposed to those elements and have a great time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the venues in Scotland, do they work? A lot of them work on exclusive use. Are a lot of them just venue hire? What do you? Is there a trend, or is it just depends where you go?
It varies. I think a lot of the heritage venues and country estates will work on exclusive use basis, because they really lend themselves in for that multi-layered, multi-day experience for couples, and the exclusivity of all the facilities, all the areas and spaces. But there is some beautiful venues that will work on more package basis or hire, partial hire of the venue. So it really depends what's more important to the couple. Is it the exclusive feel of the event, or are we happy to maybe multi-layer different spaces of this venue? So yeah,
Quite like that. Like the options.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then in terms of, you mentioned your supplier network in Scotland. What's it like?
We're very lucky. Particularly, majority of our weddings operate within the Central Belt, I'll be honest with you, because we're lucky. We've got so much choice.
Yeah.
You've got a great run of fantastic connections here. But I'll be honest with you, when we had weddings, in the West Coast, and we had weddings in Skye and Inverness, there are suppliers that will happily travel the distance as well, because quite frankly, like I said, we're looking at an hour to 2 hours drive between destinations, so actually it's doable. And Scotland is so vast when we look at the map of the UK that actually we're kind of used to this here. So you can bring in suppliers from further afield, but within what we've got to offer in Scotland, we're very lucky that you've got a variety of different styling companies that can help you dress the space and really give that personal character to your wedding. Entertainment opportunities from multiple member show bands to your DJ kind of Ibiza style party with maybe live sax, to photographers, content creators, videographers. Yeah, we're very lucky.
Really good to find that work. That's brilliant. It's nice that you haven't got to ship them in.
Oh, totally. And, when you work with people that you have tried and tested and you've established those relationships, the whole experience is just so easy. It flows so well, and there's no kind of sticking points where something unexpected might happen.
Yeah, you can trust them, they trust you. That's easy.
100%.
So when it comes to venues, we've obviously talked, there's a lot of different ones. Do you have a favourite venue or a favourite type of venue?
Controversial.
No.
We're going to get into trouble here. I'll be honest with you, Sasha. We have got such a great variety of venues. Yes, there are venues that we love and are very often at. But we what we're good at is listening to our couples and getting those personal nuances that we try to pair them with the best fit. The castle that we may like may not work for that couple. That heritage venue may be beautiful for one wedding but does not work for the other. I'll give you a prime example. We did a stunning Chinese Russian wedding in Edinburgh. They met here back in December last year, and Chinese culture is big on red collars. So we've looked at a variety of venues, and the couple did a little bit of research before they even reached to us. But immediately I knew there was one venue that's got these beautiful rich red collars, and it's heritage and it's part of the building's history. And I was like, if we walk you through those doors, you're going to love it. And so they did. So it's about having a very fine-tuned conversation with the couple, and honesty in the conversation, and also a little bit of decisive guidance from us to steer couples and explore certain areas. We did actually, another example, I love the examples. We had another couple last year who said to us, absolutely no hotels. Please just do not even suggest any hotels. But what they were thinking, coming from the US, we were going to offer them a corporate hotel experience, and this is not what they wanted. They were like, we can have a hotel in America, this is not going to work for us. Well, I said, let me show you one. If you do not like it, it's absolutely fine, but I do think this is going to really resonate with you. And we did walk them into a hotel in city centre Edinburgh. It's a new hotel, and they have just recently refurbished the heritage part of their building, which is a former kirk. and that's their event space.
Right.
It's exposed brickwork, it's exposed stone that is original to the building, big beautiful vaulted ceilings, a beautiful big turret at the end as well, at the top of it as well, and it comes in through these big beautiful heavy doors. He walked into the space, fell in love with it immediately. So yes, we had honest conversations beforehand, but sometimes it's about us trusting our own gut feel that maybe we're missing the trick by not exploring certain things.
And I think also you've probably got that advantage here in that every venue is so unique. And as you said, you don't have, it's not like when you go to some big cities where it's just hotel ballroom, hotel ballroom, hotel ballroom, and you can't really tell the difference. Each venue has a real character. So it's probably very, very, very key to match the personality directly to the couple.
Absolutely.
Particularly with the castle venues, because I think do you ever find that people's expectation of a castle is different to the reality when they come and then see the castles?
Yes and no, because there are couples that come to us and say we want a traditional castle, and then maybe the logistics of it don't work.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll give you an example. We had a couple who said to us from the get-go, it needs to be a very high finish wedding for us. It needs to be luxury. It needs to feel elevated for our guests. We're bringing a lot of lawyers, doctors into the wedding. They've got a certain level of expectations as well from us. So we want to make sure that this is going to work.
Yeah.
So we do want a castle. It must be a castle. And I said, great, perfect. So we arranged 3 tours for them at castles in and around Edinburgh. Funnily enough, it did not work.
No.
And I did suspect it a little bit for them as well, because they were a lot more young, hip, cool. They wanted this really, unique space, but with a lot more contemporary finish to it as well.
And the castles here are generally very traditional. Yeah.
We're very lucky. There are some that are a lot more contemporary these days and refurbished to today's standards as well. But actually, after the conversation, there were certain sticking points they described to me that until walking into the space, they did not realise that it was going to feel and look like that. Because if you don't know what you don't know, you don't know. Yeah. Just as simple as that. And for a lot of couples, this is the first major event of their life that they're planning. So it's important that we do open the doors and allow them to experience those spaces as well. But actually they ended up with a beautiful big barn just outside of Edinburgh in the countryside. And it just felt a lot more cozy because it was this kind of wraparound courtyard. It felt homely, it felt inviting. They gathered the night before for a kind of fire pit celebration outdoors. Had such a great time, and it felt like a festival of 2 days rather than this rigid Scottish castle experience, which it does not need to be, but this is how they felt walking into a castle at the start.
Yeah, that makes sense. And is there anything else that you think specifically international couples might assume or make presumptions about that aren't quite accurate when they're thinking about getting married in Scotland? Or is there anything you wish you could tell everyone?
Yes, I mean, about perceptions about Scotland, this is an interesting question. I think couples coming to Scotland think that our kitchen, our dishes are going to be all haggis and nothing else. But in quite honest fairness, a lot of our cuisine here in Scotland is very inspired by your Michelin star restaurants. We're rich in seafood. We've got so many different diverse options, from Italian inspired menus to your French inspired menus to more kind of Oriental style menus as well. We don't just do traditional plated seated meals. We do anything from grazing stations to these beautiful buffet stations. Couples have got a lot of choice. It's not just haggis, I promise. And if you do want to try it, couples come to us and say, haggis for a starter will not work for us because we know guests will not like it. But if we can gently sneak it in so they can try it, there's a beautiful, if you haven't guys tried it or haven't heard of it, there's little haggis bonbons. It's a little haggis formed into a bowl and rolled in breadcrumbs and deep fried.
So it's like a Scottish version of
taster.
arancini.
Exactly. So it's non-offensive, it's not too big, but it gives guests the opportunity to try it without feeling like they need to be, committed to this full starter or main course with it as well.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, a lot of guests are very positively surprised.
Really?
Yes.
Has it got a name? Oh yeah, the haggis bonbon.
Yeah. Just as simple as that.
And do they do that as canapes normally?
Tends to be more of a canapé, yes.
That's quite a nice way to
just gently, bring them into the Scottish culinary as well.
And in terms of, we've briefly spoken about accessibility, international flights go into both?
Edinburgh and Glasgow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, as I said, majority of our venues are within an hours to 2 hours drive of that. Yes, if you want to go to Skye, yes, if you want to go into far Highlands, you might want to consider your options and comfort of your guests as well. But there are connecting flights. A lot of our stateside couples that fly in through Dublin, through London, and have connecting flights to Inverness or Aberdeen, they can actually make it a little easier on your guests, because it's not ideal to ferry your guests from Edinburgh on a coach to Skye on like a 5-6 hours journey. This does not feel like a inviting environment for a guest experience.
But some of the driving around Scotland is gorgeous.
Absolutely.
And can be part of the experience if you want to make it.
Totally. I think, every couple is quite happy with a reasonable hour to 2 hours at a stretch. But yeah, I think within, majority of the scope of the venues we've got here, that's perfectly achievable.
Right. And cost budget for a wedding in Scotland. I know this is a wide open question because it depends on everything. But approximately where would you say is it on the lower end of the scale for Europe, higher end of the scale, mid-end?
I think if we look at, generally speaking, comparison to your London, to your Paris, we're probably a little better value overall in Scotland. But where we operate with our business in the luxury part of the market, you're looking at an average spend for a wedding in the region of £100,000. And you do get a very rounded multi-day Scottish wedding experience in that as well. Yes, statistically speaking, we can say that an average wedding in the UK and in Scotland as well will start from somewhere in the region of about £20,000. But from our experience, majority of the clients that work with us are in this £100,000 experience. When you think about it, you've got 2-3 day events sometimes, you've got multi-layer transport into this, you've got accommodation for your guests. So this obviously all adds up.
Yeah, but actually when you compare that, as you say, to a multi-day in Italy, it's very, very reasonable.
Very, very reasonable. And actually, interestingly enough, we do get a lot of clients coming from the US who have started planning their wedding in the States and actually came to conclusion that they would rather do a wedding and ferry their 150 guests from the US to Scotland because it was still better value and a lot more rounded and experiential experience for their guests as well.
And are you finding that experiential, I'm finding, is like a buzzword at the moment. It's becoming more and more and more important.
100%.
Are you seeing that?
Because your guests will not remember the difference between a silk and a linen napkin. Your guests will not, a lot of couples focus on the visual and the aesthetic element of the wedding, but they forget about what matters to them and their guests' experience most. And what actually matters most to their guests is how the guests are being treated and how they feel at the wedding and what they remember. So the focus, in my opinion, at the wedding should really be on food, drink, entertainment, and the flow of the event as well.
Yeah, which makes sense. And again, lends itself to these multi-day weddings in a characterful venue.
100%.
Do you find that venues in Scotland or Scotland appeals to multicultural weddings? You mentioned earlier a wedding Russian.
Oh gosh,
something.
We've done so many different cultures and traditions here. I think so. We're probably the prime example of the fact that any culture, any tradition, any little personal heritage nuances can be beautifully embraced in weddings in Scotland. You know, we've done anything from Asian weddings here, or infused Asian, multicultural weddings here from, like I said, Brazil, Mexico, Norway, and I think, being Polish myself, I am all about celebrating cultures.
Yeah.
When I got married to my Scottish, half Irish husband back in 2018, we did the whole play on the Polish-Scottish tradition, from, you know, whiskey and vodka favours to Scottish ceilidh dancing and Polish midnight games, and doing kilts for the daytime and Polish outfits for the nighttime, doing First Dance, which was a song by a Polish artist in English language. It was choreographed. We had a fantastic time celebrating the two cultures, and it's a big ethos in my business to open those doors for our couple so that they feel like their heritage can be celebrated and embraced in the whole experience as well.
That's so lovely. So actually it becomes part of it. It's kind
The
of
whole
creating a unique experience.
100%.
And I guess the venues here, particularly the exclusive use ones, lean themselves quite well to that, because you can just take over the venue, bring in caterers if needed.
Yes, and you know, some venues are quite open to bring in any caterer to them. Other venues will have a panel of caterers as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's when we do those initial conversations, it's having those conversations with the venues. You know, we're bringing a wedding that's got the Russian Chinese heritage, and they would want to do X, Y, and Z. Is there something you can do for us? Maybe do you have somebody on the team that could replicate this style of catering for us as well? And it's about really considering those options so that, you know, we can fulfill the experience. And maybe the venue that the couple has fallen in love with on social media does not meet that requirement. It's then the conversation about the compromise. Is the cultural element more important to you, or the aesthetic, or can we compromise somewhere in the middle and maybe bring something in? You know, it's possible on so many different levels and layers, but it's down to priorities, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's really, really good.
Lovely meeting you. Thank you so much, Sasha.
Thank you.